Hey everybody, happy Thursday and welcome to the Midweek Rewind, episode 21, I believe we're at. So thank you for joining us. Happy Valentine's Day Eve. Some people watching might be on a snow day today.
Yes.
It's a snow day,
Yep.
which is crazy.
It's
You probably
it's
never
gonna
had a
s-
snow day growing up, did you? In Indonesia, you probably didn't have any snow days.
no. It was hot all year round.
Nice.
They put on jackets when it got down to 70.
Wow. It's a little colder than 70 here today, just a little bit. So, well, thanks for everybody watching. We're excited to have another some time with you. So, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to jot them down. We'll do our best to get to them here. So, Brent, we are in the Forward campaign, the Forward teaching series. We just wrapped up week 2. One thing I thought about. So, one thing that I think we've talked about in the series, and we've talked about before, is that Jesus spoke a lot about money. And I think isn't true that's what he spoke about the most, except for like the kingdom of God, like it's kind of kingdom of God and then money. And I think some people think it's kind of weird that that's what he chose to spend so much time talking about money. But I was thinking about it right now. I'm in a season where I'm kind of having to talk a lot about money just because like I'm paying my taxes. We're possibly going to like work on refinancing our house, which is a long story. All this stuff going on here, like money is just a part of our life. So it's on one hand, it seems maybe weird that Jesus spoke so much about money. But we have to speak about money just because we're alive, and that's how our society works. So I just thought that was kind of interesting.
And
it's maybe not so weird that he talked about it.
Well,
so
and
much.
it doesn't matter if people think it's wrong to talk about money from a Christian, give it to Jesus. And the church always gets a bad rap for begging for money, and there are enough bad examples that people can get jaded pretty quickly. But as Christians, we just Lord of all, and you don't pull a particular part of your ethic out of the equation. Say, okay, I'm going to follow Jesus, but not with my money. I'm going to follow Jesus, but not with my lust. I'm going to follow Jesus, not with my attitude. I'm going to follow, and we all do that. But money, you're meddling, and but I think that's because people love it. They really love it.
Yep.
They wouldn't love their sin, their lust, their anger. Most few people say, I love being angry.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So a lot of other things that we should work on, we don't like about ourselves.
Right.
But this is the thing we should work on that we actually like about ourselves.
Yep. It's hard. It's hard. Yep. So we're going to talk about money for a little bit today, but we also are going to talk about something else kind of as we wrap up today. So stick with us if you're sick of us talking about money. We're going to talk about something else today too. But so first of all, Brent, one of the first things you said on Sunday could have been viewed as kind of a controversial statement, or at least kind of touchy subject, at least. So let me read it to you, and you can kind of explain what you meant and what the main sermon was about. So you said something along the lines of, our level of financial generosity reflects our level of love for God and his mission. Which some people, that may have been kind of an ouch moment.
It's a little harsh, and you naturally wonder if he's exaggerating.
Right.
Okay. The larger principle I talked about, and this isn't a Bible verse, but it's a Bible principle: actions speak louder than words.
Right.
And in every other area of our life, we kind of honor that. So we look at marriages, and they can say all they want about how they love each other. We all know words are cheap. It's your actions. Do you treat each other lovingly? Okay. Right. And again, we tend to just pull money out of our spiritual life.
Right.
Okay. But the Bible is clear. 2 Corinthians 8:8 is one verse that says, I'm testing the genuineness of your love for God and his mission and others by your generosity. Like, if I want to know how good your eyesight is, I put you through this.
Yep.
If I want to know how much you love God, I check your wallet. And we can bark about that, but this is just a principle that God lives by. So now the thing we unpacked was generosity looks very different for people in different situations. And so one of the things I said is no one gets a pass.
Right.
Like, you can't say, I don't have to tell the truth. If you're a Christian, you should tell the truth. You don't get a pass.
Yep.
Well, no one gets a pass on generosity. So I said something like, every Christian should be financially generous regardless and reflective of their financial situation.
Yep.
Regardless, I don't care whether you're poor
Mm-hmm.
or rich or anywhere in between, you ought to be generous.
Mm-hmm.
At least give something.
Right.
God's testing whether you love him.
Mm-hmm.
And money is the primary rival God,
Mm-hmm.
competing for capital G God. And then it's reflective. So obviously,
Mm-hmm.
the fairness thing says, if you earn a bucket of money, you better be given.
Mm-hmm.
So generosity is not going to be equal in the amount. So, but yeah, it's a harsh statement.
Yep.
That's why Jesus said, count the bricks before you start building your tower,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure you have enough soldiers to win the war. And don't sign up to follow me unless you're willing to go all in.
Yep.
Jesus, I think, Matt, we can go off on a rogue bunny trail on this.
Okay.
I think if Jesus had the choice between more followers and better followers, he'd choose better. Deeper, committed.
Mm-hmm.
What's Revelation? If you're lukewarm, I want to spit you out of my mouth.
Yep.
If you're not willing to hate your mother or father, if you're not willing to carry your cross, if you're not willing to die for self, don't follow me.
Yep.
So does Jesus want to save everybody? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I might be pushing things,
Mm-hmm.
but we can't escape his deep commitment to having solid all in.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He said, if you're not willing to be all in, I wouldn't. Don't sign up.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting.
I think that the reflective of your financial reality, I think that's something, I'm glad you talked about that, because that's maybe something that people don't really think as much about. And it feels like if we're not able to give very much, it feels less, it feels maybe not as significant. But I thought it was kind of interesting. I hadn't really noticed before, but in the 2 Corinthians 8, I think twice in there, Paul talks about everything should be equal. And that whether you give a lot or a little, or what, if you have a lot or a little, you still need to be a part of this. And so I think that it was interesting that Paul made a point to talk about that, and then you did on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Because you also mentioned on Sunday that sometimes people will come to you and say, "Oh, the rich people need to give more," and then maybe I'll chip in a little bit, or vice versa. The rich people will say, "It's always my job," and they're not doing
all
anything.
the entitled people,
Right?
Who are mooching,
Right?
But yeah. The equality thing is on two levels. One is that everyone needs to participate.
Yep.
The other equality is you participate relative to your situation. And
Right.
The example I gave, you have a family of 5, mom
Mm-hmm.
and dad, and a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 15-year-old. The equality principle says everyone should be generous. Everyone should contribute to the house.
Yep.
Everyone should have chores.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone should, okay. But the 5-year-old
Mm-hmm.
has a different level of generosity
Right.
than a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old for doing chores
Mm-hmm.
than the mom or the dad.
Yep.
And so everyone will give a different amount, but everyone reflective of and regardless of.
And I think over the next few weeks, we'll hopefully see and share some stories about how people are doing that here. Like our kids ministry is going through the same curriculum we are. And so they're asking the kids to, open a door for a stranger or give something to their teacher or whatever, something that's reflective of what they're able to do.
Right.
We're going to, I think at the Advanced Commitment Night, I think we're going to even share some stories of some ways that people are choosing to give things up. And so whether it's big or small, reflective of your reality, I think is a cool thing for us to keep in mind for this. So cool. Okay. Anything else about this past Sunday that you want to give a recap on?
We got other stuff on the agenda, man.
We got other stuff. Okay. Keeping the shit moving here. So you actually started the sermon with a reminder of the internal change you've been talking about, this forward campaign. Yes, it's about a building and a name, but it's much more than that. And actually the really important stuff is deeper than that. So for a while now, I remember maybe even a couple years ago, you started talking about zeal. Zeal was kind of your word. And so why don't you remind us what you said on Sunday and where you think we're headed with all of that?
Okay. So big picture,
Mm-hmm.
Our church, we're wanting to move forward to what? A new day. And I've generically been saying, hey, more lives changed, more people saved, more kids, more young families, more strengthened marriages, more of everything, but more lives changed. So we move forward to that end.
Yep.
A new day. How do we get there? Same way you move forward in weight loss,
Mm-hmm.
improving a relationship, fixing your financial life. You need an external and internal change. Internal is largely attitude, commitment, passion.
Mm-hmm.
External is the to-do list. So for our church right now, we're saying one or two of the external changes are building a name change.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the internal? And people have been asking, so internal, what is it?
Mm-hmm.
And so if there was one change that I could make in this church, it would be zeal.
Mm-hmm.
And I unpacked that a bit. So let's launch into that, Matt. Zeal, the root word is burn. So something about energy.
Mm-hmm.
It can be negative or positive.
Mm-hmm.
So in the New Testament, envy and jealousy is zeal. It's a burn with anger, burn with jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
Or then it's the word is ardor, A-R-D-O-R. It's a positive passion for something, okay? And of course, when Jesus cleansed the temple, he had both kinds.
Mm-hmm.
He had a zeal against all the flea market that they had turned the temple courtyard into. And he had the positive zeal for advancing his father's kingdom. Okay. And so, yeah, we'll have zeal against. There are people who have zeal against gambling. Mothers against drunk drivers. Mad. They have zeal against drunk driving.
Right.
Okay. Now, that's a positive zeal. It's a negative. I mean, it's a positive, negative zeal.
Right.
A negative, don't go there.
Right. I'm
zeal
with you.
Is envy, jealousy, retaliation, bitterness that burn in the dark side of life. So if I could make one change, Matt, and it's me and probably you and a bunch of us, it's zeal for a burn for, in John 2, it says the house of the Lord. And that basically means burn, energy, passion for God and his mission. So let me test this. Matt, number one, is zeal always lead to an emotional drain?
I've never paused to consider that. I don't know.
So I think we'll put always in air quotes. Okay. Like I think it is. It's that internal burn of jealousy is an emotional drain. If you're all passionate positively about water wells in Africa, it's zeal is an energy that's emotional. Okay. So I think we can only have zeal for 2 or 3 or 4 things at a time. God created us with limits physically. We can't fly on our own. Yet. We can't just flap our arms and fly, right?
Right.
He created us limits intellectually. He created us with limits relationally. He created us with limits because he wants us to depend on him. Plus, as finite people, we have to have limits.
Right.
And so there is an emotional ceiling that we all have. And so one of the comments I've had to many, many people over the years who have had passion for all kinds of things that I haven't, is they sit in my office and I say, hey, I'm just happy you got passion, zeal for this. I'll applaud from the sidelines, but I can't at the same time be zealous for eradicating cancer, be completely burning for water wells in Africa, sold out. My number one thing is prison ministry. My number one thing is students. My number one thing, you can't.
Right. It's just time. It's emotion and time. Like you couldn't possibly put the time into all those things.
Okay. So I think that theoretically we ought to have zeal for helping people, every Christian, zeal for helping people find Jesus, and zeal for helping people follow Jesus. So you win them to Jesus and then you build them up in Jesus. So that's like a reason for breath. And so we ought to be zealous about that. But I sometimes wonder how many people can pinpoint something that advances the kingdom of God that they're zealous about. So for me, I'm zealous about teaching. Nothing drains me and fills my tank more than preaching and teaching. I can't not teach. I'm zealous about that.
Right.
I'm zealous about life groups. Joan and I have been nonstop in a life group for over 30 years. Not the same one, lots of different life groups.
Yeah.
But we just believe in this, and we want people to experience it. So those are two things. What are you zealous about that advances the kingdom? So you can be zealous about being a dad or a husband. Yeah. But do you have something that I got burned for this?
Yeah. So you gave me a little bit of a warning. So you let me know you're going to ask me this. But I think for me, I've always wanted the church to be culturally relevant. And it's important to me that it's done well so that it can be attractive to outsiders. I think, hundreds of years ago, the church was known for being progressive and making the best art in the world and setting tone for what culture was going to go. And as I was growing up, we were the complete opposite. And as I saw that growing up, I wanted to be a part of changing that. And so that's why I studied media and graphic design and communications. And that's why I'm here, is because it's important to me that the church does all this well so that we're better at reaching our friends and neighbors. And that's why I'm here.
And absolutely. And the cool thing is, while we all have jobs where we have to do stuff we don't like.
Right.
You have been blessed to be in an occupation that is in the same river as your zeal. And that's a blessing. So here's a sad thing. It is an empty life for a Christian if they don't have zeal for anything that advances the kingdom of God. Now, I acknowledge that if I just said, hey, what are you zealous about that advances the kingdom? A lot of people would just be caught off guard and kind of clutch and not be able to answer.
Right.
But given time, it is an empty life if you don't have zeal, a burn for something that advances the kingdom. It's an empty Christian life. And I contend that if I got 10 people up on a stage who had energy and enthusiasm about their walk with Jesus, they felt reasonably and consistently alive in their faith. They would all have something that they're zealous about. Okay. And you get 10 Christians that are disillusioned, they're lethargic, they're unmotivated, their Christian life is driven out of duty and obligation. You put them on a stage and say, tell me what you're zealous. We'd be hugging some silence right then. So the question I have for you is, how do you get zeal for something?
I'm waiting for you to tell me. My guess is prayer. Maybe talking to some people who know you really well. Probably some introspection about what you enjoy, what you're good at, all that kind of stuff. Take the shape class, probably. I don't know. What's the answer, Brian?
I think it's all of that.
Okay.
If there were a step 1, 2, 3 to finding what you're zealous about, but it's just not a sterile checklist.
Right.
I think a person finds zeal when they beg God to give it to them, when they immerse themselves in his word, when they start taking risks in teaching Sunday school or leading a life group or going on a mission trip or mentoring a kid. They just have to start trying things. And God honors intent. And when you're saying, Lord, I don't even know what I should be zealous about. Okay. And there are, this is to complicate things, there are lots of people who had zeal for youth ministry for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then God led them to a new ministry. Now they're all sold out on water wells in Africa.
Uh-huh.
And that has a season, a shelf life. And then God leads them into a ministry of foster care or something.
Yeah.
And so I think teaching and your example are probably lifelong.
Probably. Yep.
Okay. But there are going to be, you're going to have pockets of zeal, timeline pockets, you know. But I think begging, pleading, trying, experimenting, getting yourself into the word, taking a risk, doing something, God honors most. He's going to give you zeal. And there's just so much joy and energy spiritually when you're in your sweet spot of living out of your zeal.
Yep. And one thing I thought of, you mentioned, like, both we're lucky and blessed that we get to do this for a job every day. But like, I can think of several people who attend here. They're not on staff, but it's obvious to me what they're zealous about for the kingdom. Like, I don't know if I can call him out publicly, but like Brad Hine works at a bank, but he loves missions. Goes to Mexico every year. Like, he is zealous about international missions.
That's what gives life and vibrancy and reminds him that God is real and he has purpose, and he doesn't think like, I'm just wasting my one and only life.
Right.
Because he's found his point of zeal.
So whether it is your job or not, all of us have a responsibility, and it's just probably the best way to live, to figure out what that is and run after it, whether it's your actual 9-to-5 employment or not.
Okay, so, we got 10 minutes here, but let me
go for it.
Go on one other thing on zeal.
Okay.
So have you been around zealous people for good things, but they're obnoxious? It's all they talk about.
Yes.
They don't read the room. So they're the king or queen of awkwardness.
Yes.
Okay. A spirit-led zeal for cultural relevancy for the church, water wells in Africa. So one might be lifelong, one might be seasonal, but spirit-led zeal is attractive.
Yep.
And it's sometimes people need to be mentored a bit to say, I know you're all excited about prison ministry.
Yeah.
But for you to influence others toward that,
kind of force it and overdo it.
You need to lead people toward that. You need to understand some emotional intelligence, some read the room, because you know what it's like when one person walks up and you say, oh no, they're going to talk about this again. And behind that is just, if you want to advance your cause, you need to be able to read the room and have an attractive zeal.
Yep.
And so it's just kind of interesting.
And as like in one sense, it'd be really nice if we all had the exact same things we're all zealous about. And hopefully in this new day, hopefully there's some handful of things that we're all unified on. But it also goes back to the unity and uniformity thing, that like First MB needs people who are super into kids, super into men, super into, whatever it is. Like in order for us to be really effective, we actually need people who are zealous about a bunch of things, not just one. But it's a tough road, because hopefully we're zealous about a couple of the same things, but we need everybody. Would you say that's true?
Yes. And if you just look at the Bible language of one body, many parts.
Right.
Okay. God intentionally does not call all of us to the same exact things.
Right.
Spiritual gifts. We could say your zeal often is in your spiritual gift. So if your spiritual gift is mercy, which is caring about those who are hurting and wanting to do something about it, that mercy is going to lead to foster care, or water wells, or mentoring fatherless children.
Right.
So your spiritual gift, which is, we don't have all of them,
right,
if you can lead out of where God has gifted you in a practical way, so out of mercy, you just love visiting people in the hospital. That's a mercy gift. You love writing notes of encouragement to people who are hurting. That's a mercy. So you can be zealous, honestly, about a very narrow thing. I'm zealous about caring for widows. God's he's gonna plop us, hopefully, into areas for seasons or long periods of time to bring light to the world. But I've found a lot of freedom in that line. Hey, I'm glad you're sold out on that, but I'll applaud from the sidelines. But I don't have the energy for it to be my number 1, 2, or 3.
And then we should be
confident
of that and gracious when our thing isn't someone else's thing. It's got to work both ways.
When there are people out there who don't ever give a thought to the cultural relevance of the church, it's easy to get frustrated with them.
Right.
Turn the tables, right?
Exactly. And I know I've heard you say just kind of hints that we're going to be talking about this maybe kind of a lot for the next, I don't know, couple months, years as this continues to unfold. So we'll be continuing to unpack this, and I'm sure you have more to say. So zeal, we're going to keep chasing it for the next little bit here. So we got a couple minutes left here, Brent. So this upcoming Sunday, continuing forward. So we want everybody to come Sunday morning and evening on Sunday. You want to give everybody a quick, what are we talking about morning and evening on Sunday?
So Sunday morning, we're continuing through the 2 chapters most dedicated to generosity in the Bible, and that's 2 Corinthians 8 and 9. And we're in a section where Paul's going to talk about 2 things that are really critical when it comes to generosity. One is, are you eager to be generous? The other one's very interesting. Do you trust those who are overseeing the disbursement of your generosity? So we're going to talk about what our church is doing to earn and keep your trust. So you give your tithes, your offerings. That's a lot of money. We disperse $2.5 million a year. Like, what are the checks and balances? You need to live with some trust, but we need to earn that trust. And so are you eager to give? And are we trustworthy as leaders of the church? It's going to be a very interesting. We're going to talk about that on Sunday morning. Now, Sunday evening is advanced commitment night. So I'll let you in on something. I look forward to every Sunday, but honestly, some Sundays I look forward to them a lot more. I don't think that's bad, but this Sunday night, I'm like looking forward to it a lot.
It'd be good.
So we're inviting the whole church, and particularly those who are they're already in and they're excited. They got the zeal for this thing, the forward campaign and the building expansion. And we're going to invite people to turn in their commitment for 2 years. I'll walk through it with them. And or for them to just say, oh, I'm praying more, and they'll write that on the card. But we are going to have a great evening, testimonies, music. We're going to end up joining with the high schoolers in Access. They meet every Sunday night. They're doing their forward campaign too. And so we're all going to be together, have a closing song, a feel-good moment, and not orchestra. I mean, it's really legitimate. It's going to be a great evening, but everyone's welcome.
Cool. That'll be a big Sunday. So please do join us in the evening and the morning. Come one of the services in, come back for the evening, and we'll be back here again next Thursday as well to continue the Midweek Rewind. So I think that about wraps it up. Anything else, Brent?
Thanks. And Matt and I, we just enjoy doing this.
It's
fun for us. Maybe one day we'll say we have zeal for Midweek Rewind.
There you go.
But thanks for all of you jumping in on this. And let's keep being generous and find your zeal point. Okay.
That's good. All right. Well, so thanks again for everybody watching, and for everybody who's watching later. We're glad you were here with us as well, even though we're not live with you. And have a great rest of your week. We'll see you Sunday morning and evening and next Thursday.
Love it. See ya.
Okay. Have a great day, everybody.